Samrick. I am so excited today to be talking to author Jan Sikes about her new book that I read on my Kindle and I just devoured. It's a page turner, to be sure. Wonderful to read in the new year. I don't know what the weather is like where you are, but it's cold and rainy. And I just, I can't remember the last time, seriously, that I tore through a book like this. It has everything in it. It has love, it has adventure, it has mystery, it's a thriller. But there were a couple of topics that were so fresh that I don't read a lot about. And I would say the metaphysical and a lot about music. What I found fascinating about her backstory is that she actually learned to craft her writing skills in order to tell this story that was burning inside of her. And since then, she's just continued to write. So I know it's hard to go back to the very beginning, Jan, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, sort of for maybe new readers, how to catch up with you right now, because you have such a backstory as a writer and storyteller. So if you want to say anything about that.
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me today. I'm so happy to be here, and Happy New Year to you. So I never set out in life to be a writer. That was not my goal. I never even considered it. But after my husband passed away in 2009, I realized that there was a story that had to be told. I thought someone else would tell it. I really thought my sister would, but she kind of put it back on me. So I woke up one morning to the realization that I had to tell the story because I was the only one that knew it. And if someone else wrote it, I would have to tell them the whole thing. So I got busy. I took creative writing classes and started. And it took 4 books to tell it, but they are classified as biographical fiction because I had to resort to fictitious characters to tell the story. It was too personal. So when I tried to write it in first person, it just didn't work. I couldn't separate enough to tell the story. So the fictitious part is the characters. Everything in the books did happen, and it took 4 books to tell it.
Wow. And so Ghostly Interference is book 1 in a new series.
Yes.
And I don't want to give too much away, but I love how you get in the mind of both Jag and, is it Rena or Raina?
Rena.
Rena. I love how you get into both of their minds, and it's sort of the story of the two of them and sort of an evolution that they both have. And I loved the aspect of having a spirit who is also a main character who is, and I've noticed as a follower of your blog that you do Tarot Tuesday and you do things like that. Do you want to talk at all about how you bring the metaphysical into your writing and why that's important to you? And also, is there any character that kind of resonates more with you out of Charlie, Jag, Raina? So if you can remember all that.
Okay, yes. Okay, so first of all, about the metaphysical aspects, I am just not capable of writing a story that doesn't have some kind of a message or some kind of opportunity for opening or expanding thought and what if. I started on my metaphysical journey back in the 70s, so it's been a long journey for me, and I've learned a lot along the way, including the tarot, which was really fun. So bringing the runes, which this is the White Rune series, bringing the runes into this story is just a whole other aspect of new age metaphysical type things. So I do, and almost with every story that I write, there has to be some kind of message, some kind of something. And so for this story, it was the idea of the ghost of Sam Jett being actively involved in bringing these two people together and wanting his sister to be happy and settled before he could move on into his afterlife. And so he was a big character and played a big part. And the White Rune came from him in the form of the letter. And you've read the book, so you know that. But the readers who haven't read the book, it comes to Rena. Sam was Rena's only family member. He joined the military and was deployed to Afghanistan. And only returned home in a body bag. So this final letter reached Rena, and it had this white rune in it with the Wunjo symbol, which signifies a happily ever after. And that's what he wanted for her. And so he did everything he could do to try to make that happen for his sister so that he could move on in peace. The character that I resonate the most with is Charlie. I am very aligned with her, and I see parts of myself in her.
I love the music component to your story. And I know, again, if people follow you, they know that music is a big part of your writings.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a big part of my background. My late husband was a musician, singer, songwriter, lifetime. That was his passion. And so being drawn into that world, I learned so much about the inner workings of the music industry and the creative processes that are just, I love the creative processes. Love how, whether it's writing a song, a poem, a book, it doesn't matter. It's all a creative process. And that's the part that gets me excited.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, bringing the music into it was just another layer. I kind of look at writing a story like, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever eaten an artichoke, but you've got to peel off the leaves to ever get to the heart. And that's kind of how I see writing a story, is creating those leaves that you have to peel back to get to the heart of the story.
Yes. Yes. I really liked the relationship between Charlie and Jet. I really liked how, or Jag, sorry. I liked how, as mother, son, you didn't have to know a lot of backstory for them to instantly, for her not to even question what he saw when he saw Sam, and that she knew instantly. And the relationship just kind of picked up from there. And I, as a writer, I liked how you crafted that without having to give a lot of it. Just, the relationship, you could tell how close they were just from that moment.
And as the story unfolded and some of the secrets were revealed, it kind of showed why they were so close.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when I started writing this book, I struggled with the character name for Jag. I couldn't. I started out calling him Lance, and it just didn't fit. And so I was talking with my sister one day, who is an author, and she said, well, why don't you interview him and ask him what his name is? And I know to normal people that might sound kind of crazy because this all goes on inside your head, but I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I was going to do that. But one morning in the shower, Charlie started talking to me and told me her story and how that she had met Mick Jagger and had said that if she ever had a son, she would name him Jag. So it was like a light bulb. There was his name. But because of that, I actually wrote a short story telling her story. And I haven't quite figured out what to do with it yet. It's part of an anthology. But I'm going to do something with it as a kind of a prequel to Ghostly Interference, but I want people to have read it first, or they'll know the secret before they get there.
Wow, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
There's so many twists and turns. Did you sort of figure those out as you went, or had you mapped everything out ahead of time? Because it was really craftily done.
I am not an outliner. To me, outlining would be the most boring thing in the world for me to do. And I just always think, well, by the time I write an outline, I could have 3 or 4 chapters written. So I am a pantser, and the story unfolds as it goes. And I let the characters lead. I let the characters lead the story. And that's just kind of my method. That's what I use. That's what works for me.
I know you've been described as a wordsmith. I really appreciated your dialogue. I think dialogue is one of the hardest things to capture as a writer, and I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. I enjoy writing dialogue, and I can hear them in my head, and so I just write what they say, and their inflections and maybe how slang that they might use or whatever. And so it comes very natural for me to write dialogue, and I enjoy doing it.
Oh, good. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about your inspiration, the quotes that inspire you. I read them and I just really, they resonated with me. And I know you said you have them right around your workspace.
I
Do you want to
do.
say anything about any of those?
It's on different days and different phases of life. Different ones of them really kind of jump out and mean something to me. And so I do, but the one that I keep and look at, I would say daily, is the one that says, imagine with your whole mind, believe with your whole heart, and then achieve, with your whole everything, with your whole being. And that just really to me is very inspiring, because everything we do starts with a thought.
Mm.
You know,
How has that helped you during this challenging year we've had?
oh, it's been a crazy year for sure, but I was so busy with this story
Mhm.
that I don't think I suffered as quite as much as some folks may have, because I was very busy and very much in engrossed in that process of getting the book ready and getting it out. And this was my first time to work with a publisher. I self-published my other books and the short stories. And so this was such a learning curve for me. And the extensive editing processes were, I loved it, because I knew that every time we went through another edit, it was going to make my story better.
Yeah, good. I know I jotted down here to talk with you another time about, that's so interesting that you know both routes now, the self-publishing and working with a publisher routes. And you're very good about, as a fairly new author, I've learned that once you write the book, that's not the end of it at all. And I'm still the second part of it. That's the part I like. The second
That's the
part's all the
easy part.
marketing
Yes.
part. And I'm and you're
Yeah.
very engaged and you've learned a lot, I
And
can
I
tell.
am not, it doesn't come natural to me. I'm not a salesman. I'm not a marketer. I don't have a background in marketing. Everything has been a learn as you go. But
Sure.
I joined some groups here in Texas that were very beneficial and very helpful.
Mhm.
From the beginning, the Texas Association of Authors and the Writers League of Texas. I have learned a lot through both of those organizations and conferences, and sitting in on workshops about different ways of marketing. And so, yeah, it's just been very much a big learning curve for sure from day one.
Yeah, you're smart the way you you work. So
Well, I think the biggest thing to remember is that people want a connection with you.
yeah.
And I kind of learned that through the music business. When
Mm.
people go to listen to an artist, they want to feel some connection with that artist. And I think it's the same with us as writers. People want to feel a connection with us.
Mhm.
And if we can do that, and just be ourselves and be honest and be whoever we are, and
Right.
and engage with people, I think they respond to that. I do.
You can tell that you have a loyal like readers and followers. And I'm a new reader of yours, but you can tell you have a very loyal fan base, which is really nice.
Yeah, again, that's been a long time coming by.
Hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a slow process, and especially when you publish that first book and nobody's ever heard of you, and you're just yeah, it's
Sure,
not
sure.
easy.
Yes,
It's a
yeah.
slow building process.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that's great to hear. So sort of to wrap it up, are your thoughts just constantly going off in your mind? Do you have a routine where you kind of try to compartmentalize when you want to write, or you just, does it strike you when you write things down, or what's your routine like for writing?
I keep lots of notes, and I get lots of story ideas from songs, listen to the radio in the car. And so I always keep a paper and pencil handy in the car. And at a
Mm.
red light, I might jot down just a word that would bring it back around to me. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, the ideas come, and I always, it may sound strange, but I feel like if I'm giving a thought, if something is given to me, as a thought or an idea that it's my responsibility to do something with it, whether I write a poem or whether I write a song or whether I write a book or a short story. I just feel like it's my responsibility, if it's given to me, to do something with it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it's so refreshing. I appreciate that very much.
I just hope that readers will pick it up and enjoy it. The story has a lot of different aspects. So, some people say, well, I don't like romance. I don't read romance. Okay, well, there's a lot of other stuff in it besides the romance.
Yeah.
So I think it does appeal to a wide audience. And several men have read it and told me how much they enjoyed it. So even though they would not normally read romance, they found enough action and twists and turns that it kept their attention. So that made me feel good.
I meant to ask you too, do you have a motorcycle? The motorcycle plays such a role. The motorcycle is a character.
It does. And that came from when I was 19, 20 years old. I met a man who had a Harley. And I can say this because he's deceased, but I would never have given him a second look if he hadn't had a Harley. It's a true statement. I have to be honest, but I loved the freedom of riding on it. I never wanted to drive my own. I'm not that tough, hard girl, but I loved riding behind him. And then through the years, as I got the opportunity, anytime I got an opportunity to ride, I would jump at it because it's such a feeling of freedom, and the wind's blowing through. It's like it blows through you, not on you. It blows through you. So it just clears your mind, and you're right there. I love riding.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. So any Harley riders out there, hit me up.
Right. Yeah. Well, the feeling of freedom comes through in the book, the feeling of freedom. So I had to ask you. And then, are you born and raised Texas?
I was actually born and raised in Hobbs, New Mexico, which is 5 miles across the Texas line. I say I got here as quick as I could and as close as I could. But when I was 18, I left Hobbs and moved to Abilene, Texas. And I've been in Texas most of my life.
Yeah. Well, any reader living anywhere will appreciate ghostly interference, but I liked how you brought elements of Texas in some of the descriptions. It had some regional touches too, so that anybody in Texas should definitely be reading this tale that pays tribute to Texas.
The blue bonnets, they're just so gorgeous when they bloom. And that's just nothing like it, seeing a field of blue bonnets.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited and can't wait to read the rest of the series, of the White Rune series.
Yes.
And Ghostly Interference by Jan Sikes.